Hello everyone, my name is Shubham Aggarwal. I have secured All India rank 25 in Civil Services Examination 2019 and it was my first attempt. My optional subject was Commerce and Accountancy. I am 22 years old. I'll be sharing my preliminary examination strategy with you today and the CSAT as well. So let's begin. As you all know, the Civil Services Examination is bifurcated into 3 exams. It is the preliminary, the mains and the interview. We'll be talking about the preliminary examination today. The preliminary examination by itself is bifurcated into 2. One is the general studies paper and the other is the CSAT paper. CSAT paper is a qualifying examination with what one needs to achieve, I think, 1/3 of the total marks achievable, 67 out of 200 to clear the exam. The main crux of the paper is the general studies paper, which is also of 200 marks, and every correct answer awards you 2 plus 2 points, and every incorrect answer gives you a negative 0.67, which is 1/3 of the total marks possible. And left answers achieve you a score of 0. So it is bifurcated into +2 for every correct answer and minus 0.67. If you look at cutoffs in the previous years, the cutoffs have generally varied between 100 to 110. Some odd years it has gone to 116, and for the past 2 years it has remained at 98. So a general ballpark of 100 and 110 is the cutoffs expected in the preliminary examination. But as an aspirant, we all have to aim to cross that 110 mark to account for any eventuality or any circumstance which appears in the examination. I will be briefly talking about the subjects in the preliminary examination and my book list and my strategy of those particular subjects. One of the most important subjects for the preliminary examination is polity or political science. My strategy for polity was basically twofold. For the static part, I studied Lakshmikant, and for the current affairs part, the monthly magazines, plus the newspapers. Talking about Lakshmikant first, it is one of the most important books for the civil services examination. It helps you not only in the preliminary examination but also the mains. This book is a bulky one, but it's not to be read cover to cover. If you study the previous year question papers, you'll understand what parts of the book are more important than the others. Some of the parts of the constitution like part 3, part 4, which deals with fundamental rights or DPSPs, are much more important than, let's say, some of the parts later in the constitution. So this book has to be revised. Like I revised it at least 10 times before taking the final exam. It's up to our convenience, how comfortable are we with the particular subject. This book is very important and it basically covers all of your polity required for the civil services examination. When it comes to current affairs is always to be supplemented with the Lakshmikant book. The Lakshmikant book will only provide you with the static material, and it's only the current affairs part which you do with the regular newspaper reading and the monthly magazines, which are the 2 sources I refer to, that you substitute your preparation along with the static material, and so wholly you prepare yourself for polity. After my strategy was for enrolling for a preliminary examination test series and writing through the 35 or the 50 tests that are there in a particular test series all through the year. So my strategy basically was, if I am studying polity, I'll be giving polity-based test series right after studying, so that that's the only way where how you can judge yourself whether you're understanding what you're studying or not. Because one thing which happens a lot with the UPSC aspirants is they understand while they are studying, but due to lack of revision, they tend to forget it very quickly, because these are not subjects that we usually study in our graduation or in our matriculation. So giving the test series and analyzing how much score you're getting is very important. Next, very important subject according to weightage is history. Again, the syllabus generally says Indian history, but it's very important to bifurcate into different time zones. So we have ancient, we have medieval, and we have modern. Then there is also another part which can be associated with history is art and culture. These, as you can already say, are purely static topics, and basic books which every aspirant or every topper utilizes can be utilized for them. For ancient and medieval, I used old NCRTs. For modern, I used Spectrum by Rajiv Ahir sir. And for art and culture, I referred a book called Fine Arts, class 11th. This was my only and only material for history, be it for prelims or for mains. Revising them again and again is very important. Note making, if you feel you're comfortable with, is very important. I did not make any notes for Spectrum, but these old NCRTs, I was not very comfortable with reading them again and again. So the first time I picked up those books, I decided that I would make notes. So I made 50 pages each notes for both ancient and medieval, and I never referred to those books again. I made notes out of those books and I never touched those books again. Every time I had to revise my art and culture or my ancient and medieval, it was to be done from those 50 pages of notes. That is history. Next comes geography. For geography, in prelims and in mains, the source material was limited to 11th and 12th NCRTs along with GC Leong. Only 5 books I studied for geography. Both my prelims and my mains were covered from them. But one thing which goes without saying is giving the sectional test series again and again. Subject-wise test series helps you to understand what subjects you are lacking in, where you can make intelligent guessing, and which subjects do you need to avoid in the final exam. Another important aspect of the preliminary examination is economics. In 2019, the attempt I gave, economics was very heavy in the paper, but my graduation subject being commerce and accountancy and minors in economics, I cannot refer a book because I did not study economics for the UPSC exam. Other than that, general awareness questions comes. These can be linked to current affairs. General awareness and current affairs, my source materials were again the newspaper and the monthly magazines. Another source material for current affairs was the prelims magazines that different institutes release. So a lot of institutes release, some release Focus, some release PD 365. So you can refer to those so that you can revise your current affairs in a timely fashion just before the examination. This is all about my source material. Now coming to test series. What is important to keep in mind while writing test for prelims? One quintessential aspect about test series is avoid giving online tests. Writing online tests and marking your answers in the computer for prelims is as incorrect as doing answer writing practice for mains by typing the answers. We do not do that, and hence we should not do this as well. The preliminary test by the UPSC is based on OMR sheets. It is the OMR sheets which is the only single sheet that records your preliminary questions answers and which gets checked and it gets evaluated for. So people who are giving online test series and marking their answers via a mouse click are completely doing a disservice to themselves. The correct way of giving test series is, even if you're sitting at home, take a printout of the question paper, get an OMR sheet from the market, and give those 2 hours wholly dedicated without any screen. While writing the preliminary examination, there should be no screen around you because it's a complete distraction. Other things will pop out. Those 2 hours is completely dedicated to just your question paper, your OMR sheet, and your pen. Another very important aspect of test series is analyzing. Out of the 100 questions, different aspirants have different benchmarks of how many questions do they need to attempt. My ballpark was around 85, but I agree that it is on the lower end. A normal ballpark is 85 to 95 questions because achieving accuracy in preliminary examination is tough, and the more questions you answer, generally it happens is the more correct answers you get. So, but in my final exam, I was able to answer only 83 questions, out of which I got around 62 correct and 21 incorrect, which gives me a roughly score of 110. This is the score that one needs to achieve. This 83 or 95 or 100 or 70 is not of much importance till the time you are reaching this score. But to reach this score, you have to give a lot of tests and analyze. Now, how do you analyze what areas and how you are answering your questions and how are they coming up? So in one of the previous year's toppers video showed me a brilliant way to analyze how you're giving your test series. What one does is one makes a grid. Here one's write first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, attempted, correct, incorrect. Now in the 2-hour period, what one has to do is not only go through questions once, not twice, but at least thrice. Go through the questions at least 3 times. In the first attempt, normally we mark the questions that we are sure about. Let's say out of the 100 questions, I am sure about 40 questions. So in my first attempt, I attempted 40 questions. These parts will come only after you have done giving the exams. In the time period of 2 hours, only this column is to be filled. Now I go for my second attempt. What I did was I used to do the questions in the second attempt of which I was sure between 2 options. I had to take a call of 50-50. So if I was able to eliminate 2 options, I would take a call of 50-50 and let's say I attempted 25 questions in my second attempt. Now in the third attempt where I have roughly 20 to 25 or 30 minutes left in the completing the 2 hours, I know I have a gap of at least 20 questions because my target is at least 85. So I have to make at least 20 questions here. So in the third attempt, let's say I attempt the rest of the 20 questions. This is what I have done in my 2 hours time period while writing the test. Now it comes to analyzing. I check my answers, I read all the descriptions of the answers given of which I have made incorrect answers to, and then I fill up this area. Let's say out of the 40, I got 35 correct and 5 incorrect, or 25 because it was 50-50 chance, I was not sure about them, 18 correct and 7 incorrect. Out of 20, let's say 10 correct and 10 incorrect. Now you have to make sure you are keeping a track of your accuracy. 35 out of 40. So roughly 85 to 90% accuracy you are getting here. 18 out of 25, roughly 70%. And 10 out of 20, roughly 50%. Now what you get out of giving repeated test series is you get your accuracy known. It's not required that you get 100% accuracy in each of these, but at least you should be aware of what your accuracy of each attempt is, because that helps you, this part helps you in changing this part of the number of questions attempted. In the next test series or in the next test, on the next test, mock test, and eventually in the final test, you will be more aware about how many questions you are attempting in what attempt of yours in the period of 2 years. It's also very important to make sure how intelligently you are guessing the correct answers, because a 70% accuracy in your second attempt is good because you're making the choice between 50-50. But if this goes down to 40%, then even in a 1:1 ratio situation, you are getting more incorrect answers than correct answers, which is not a very happy place to be. But you know that you're not getting correct answers in your mock test series, so you can improve upon that. So this grid, one of the toppers, I followed his advice and formed this grid. All my mock test series in my prelims was based on this on this grid, and it helped me a lot in achieving the accuracy that I needed for the exam. Other very important things which comes with prelims is takes the troughs and the crests with equal importance. No candidate achieves only these marks in mock tests. No candidate achieves only these marks. There will be days when you'll be getting very high marks, 130, 140 in a particular test, and you'll be elated and you'll be thinking that you'll be getting rank 1. And there'll be days when you will be getting 50 or 60 or 70. I was a similar candidate in both. I was falling in both the situations. It's very important to understand that not this test is what matters, it's what you did in those 2 hours matters. There must be something wrong, lack of attention, lack of awareness in those 2 hours, and you must be very joyous in those 2 hours. Or maybe it's just the questions. It's very important to take your triumphs and the disasters in equal spirit. Do not get bogged down at these times and do not get overconfident at those. Have a small study group, discuss with your friends how much scores are they getting. And if you're enrolling for online test series, then one thing that happens is you get ranks after each test. If people are continuously getting top 10, top 20, top 50 ranks, good for them. But if you're falling around and around 800 or 900 or 1000 ranks, do not get bogged down. I joined a test series, open test series for 3 tests, and out of 3000 students, roughly 3000 students, I never got a rank more than 800. Never got a rank more than 800. But that is not what matters, because the questions that the institute's tests is repeated from a lot of years, that the question banks that they have. The question that the UPSC will have is much more relatable. So do not get bogged down by the marks that you're getting or the rank that you're getting. Just be focused on the process of giving the exam, of the process that you're spending those 2 hours with your pen and paper and your OMR sheet, of the process of understanding and becoming aware of how do you attempt questions, of the process of how intelligently you are able to guess your questions, how many of them are getting you the correct answers. That's more important. That's been my prelim strategy. I'm Shubham Aggarwal. Thank you very much.